Ew.
Whether you're a lifelong fan or someone who has really only seen that Mr. Plow episode over and over again back when people actually had that thing called cable, there's no denying that The Simpsons is one of the most iconic shows out there. Whether they were predicting world events decades before they took place, or just letting Homer be Homer, there has always been so much more to The Simpsons than meets the eye. But the most unexpected moments are the ones that happen when you pause the show at just the right moment.
And now.
In its heyday, The Simpsons was always one of the smartest things out there in ways we definitely didn't realize when we were kids. There are jokes hidden in just about every frame, and when you finally see them, it's impossible to look at the show the same way. Like, how about the fact that if you pause and look at the side of his head, you can totally see that Homer's zigzag hair and his ear line up to create Matt Groening's signature, or his initials at least. Groening is, of course, the creator of the show, and he couldn't help but slip in a little joke for himself when he designed the character. You might think that we're really reaching here, but in an episode from season 16, Homer himself proves us right.
And for some reason, my hair and ear form an M and a G.
You've definitely wondered exactly what was going on with Homer's weird hairs. We know we have. The Simpsons writers have never been a group to dumb anything down for their audience. Usually at least half made up of Harvard graduates and all-around smarty pantses, but one gag from an early Treehouse of Horror episode might just have blown every other clever joke out of the water. In the last segment of the 6th annual Treehouse of Horror episode, Homer Cubed, he squeezes himself behind a bookshelf and jumps into a mysterious abyss, in which everything is suddenly 3D.
Holy macaroni!
While the graphics might look a little dated by today's standards, in 1995 when the episode aired, it was seriously cool. While he's in there, Homer is surrounded by a series of random 3D shapes and objects, including a series of numbers floating in the abyss. What you might have only realized if you are a very, very keen observer is that those numbers are anything but random. When converted into ASCII, or American Standard Code for Information Interchange, they actually spell out Frink rules.
Whoa, slow down, egghead.
Frink is, of course, Professor Frink, Springfield's resident scientist and all-around genius. We all know that Principal Skinner has been through a lot. He has experienced some pretty traumatic events as a former member of the US Army, including a stint in Vietnam that haunts him to this day. And for good reason. In one episode, Skinner finds a helmet that he wore during a long stint as a prisoner of war during the conflict. But the real story goes even deeper than that. The helmet is stamped with the numbers 24601. While that might seem random, it's actually the same number that was applied to the fictional character Jean Valjean from Les Miserables when he was imprisoned for years after stealing a loaf of bread to feed his sister's children. And that's not even all. In a later episode, it was revealed that Skinner was actually a criminal named Armin Tamzarian, who took on the identity of Seymour Skinner to live in respectable society. If you know your musical theater, you'll know that this is the same thing that Jean Valjean does in Les Mis. So basically, Seymour Skinner is actually Armin Tamzarian, who has really been Jean Valjean all along. Homer Badman is one of the most frequently quoted and most beloved Simpsons episodes ever. The episode begins with the family going to a candy exposition, in which Homer steals a very precious gummy, Venus de Milo.
That is the rarest gummy of them all, the gummy Venus de Milo.
Later, he gives their babysitter a ride home, and after noticing that she had sat on his very precious gummy, there is a huge miscommunication, and she accuses him of harassing her.
For a minute there, I thought I was in big trouble. It's just
A local trashy media outlet known as Rock Bottom picks up the story and invites Homer for an interview. They then doctor the tape to make it appear as though Homer is a lot less innocent than he actually is. But one of the best moments of the entire episode doesn't happen until the very end, and you'll definitely have to pause in order to catch it. When Homer is eventually cleared of all charges, Rock Bottom is forced to announce that they made a mistake and retract not only Homer's story, but all of the other false news stories that they've been spreading. Suddenly, a list of retractions speeds across the screen, and if you pause at just the right moments, the results are hilarious. The list includes things like, if you are reading this, you have no life, and the older Flanders boy is Rod, not Rod. You probably know that all of the Simpsons characters only have 4 fingers, but what you may not have realized is that tons of cartoon characters are afflicted with the same condition. It's true. Across networks and TV shows everywhere, you'll find case after case of 4-fingered characters, and it goes all the way back to the early days of Disney animation.
Find me a 90-year-old projector and I'll prove it to you.
There are actually quite a few reasons for this. Back in the days of hand-drawn animation, eliminating just one figure allowed animators to keep hands recognizable while saving a ton of time. Another reason is that early characters, outside of Japanese anime, were mostly made out of a bunch of differently sized circles. And when it came to the hands, adding a 5th finger made them look, as Walt Disney himself put, like a bunch of bananas. And that might be exactly why, in The Simpsons, the creators made the decision to give only 2 characters 5 fingers: God and Jesus. That's right, in all of Springfield history, they are the only 2 with a full set of digits. If you're a Simpsons fan, then you definitely know the name McBain. The action hero, played by movie star Rainier Wolfcastle, has popped up in a ton of different Simpsons episodes over the years, usually in short clips that feature super violent scenes from his different movies. Or at least, that is what they would like us to think. What we have actually been seeing are multiple clips from the same movie. That's right, over all the seasons of The Simpsons, every time you've ever seen a clip from a McBain movie, it's really been a part of one insane movie. And you can watch them all in order. Someone has taken the time to put all of the scenes into chronological order, and together they flow perfectly into one 3.5 miniature Die Hard style action thriller. It's amazing to think about how much forethought that the writers and creators of The Simpsons must have in order to sneak an entire action movie into their show, spread out over multiple seasons.
You want to rent it, sir?
Why? I just saw the best part.
The Simpsons have had just about every celebrity grace their studios and lend their famous voices to various Springfieldians or visiting characters. Hank Scorpio, anyone?
When did that happen? How much of it? Oh my goodness, I'll be right up.
One of the craziest and weirdest celebrities to ever make it into an episode is definitely Michael Jackson. And you may not have even noticed it was him, which was no accident. In the premiere episode of Season 3, Jackson came on as Homer's roommate at a mental health facility, who then helps Bart record an iconic song for Lisa's birthday.
Hi, I'm Michael Jackson from the Jacksons.
I'm Homer Simpson from The Simpsons.
Weirdly enough, while Jackson spoke his character's lines, he was contractually forbidden from singing the now famous Lisa, It's Your Birthday. So the studio found a Michael Jackson sound-alike and brought him in to record the singing himself.
Lisa, it's your birthday.
And in another strange turn of events, Jackson would only agree to do the episode if they didn't actually credit him for his work, even though he was a big fan of the show. He was such a big fan of Bart, particularly, that he also co-wrote the single Do the Bartman, that was released later that year, and once again, was contractually forbidden from taking credit for it. If you've ever wondered just why Homer Simpson and Krusty the Clown look so much alike, you're not alone, and it's no coincidence either.
Well, excuse me!
Krusty was actually designed with Homer in mind, and the fact that they looked the same was going to factor into a plot line that was eventually abandoned. Originally, the creators had the idea that Krusty would turn out to be Homer in disguise, and that he has a famous clown alter ego, long before Hannah Montana was ever created. While it never panned out that way, it did come to work in Krusty's favor years later, when he was able to use Homer as a disguise after getting in trouble with the mob.
I am confused.
Good one, Krusty.
There was also an underlying idea that one of the reasons Bart is so drawn to Krusty is because he looks like Homer, and that Bart could subconsciously be seeking a better relationship with his father. We've mentioned before just how the Simpsons writers' room is filled with all kinds of intelligent people, and that they all have a very specific affinity for numbers. This is even more evident in the case of a series of numbers that have a specific significance for everyone behind the scenes of The Simpsons. That number, okay, in one letter, is A113. A113 pops up all over The Simpsons, spanning all of its seasons. And not only that, It has also appeared in other shows like American Dad, Family Guy, almost every Pixar movie, and literally hundreds more. In The Simpsons alone, it's popped up in over 5 episodes in all kinds of places like Sideshow Bob's mugshot, Bart's mugshot. What exactly is A113? Well, it actually refers to a number of a classroom. That's right, a very particular classroom at the California Institute of the Arts. The room was inhabited by a graphic design and character animation class, the alumni of which went on to create animation for some of the most popular shows and movies of all time. Brad Bird, one of the minds behind some of the greatest animation ever, has said that he has put it into every single one of his movies and all of his Simpsons episodes. Every now and then, The Simpsons will air one of their famous clip shows, an episode comprised of clips and segments from old shows that have already aired, loosely tied together by a plot, or sometimes not even at all. They have never been shy about addressing that. They know how lazy these episodes are, but hey, sometimes you just need a break. In one of these clips, they went above and beyond acknowledging this laziness with an elaborate song that promised that they would be more creative in the future. It included a ton of insane story ideas and was all around hilarious. While most of us thought that the song was just funny and that they wouldn't actually honor all of those ideas, we should have known better than to underestimate The Simpsons. Almost every single storyline from the song has become an episode of the show, from Moe buying a cell phone to Marge becoming a robot and everything in between. In fact, there is only one story that has yet to make it to the series, and that is an idea involving Bart owning a bear. Whether they knew that they were going to honor the song when they wrote it, or it just turned out to be a good well of ideas, we'll never know.
He's still funny, but not ha-ha funny.
Once again, The Simpsons proved themselves to be one of the smartest shows ever made. What do you think? Are you a fan of the famous family, or do you think the show has run its course? Did we miss any amazing Easter eggs that we should know about? Let us know down in the comments. We hope you had fun watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest from ScreenRant.